Hi, I'm Cate Masters. I'm going to be reading today from the opener to A Dangerous Affair in Venice, which is actually a box set of my trilogy Cursed, Charmed, and Claimed, so it's actually the opening to Cursed. And this is set in Venice in Carnevale. If you're not familiar with that, it's kind of a Mardi Gras atmosphere. So everyone's in costume, and this is in the hero's voice. Okay, this is chapter 1. La Serenissima, Venice. The promise of a touch, a caress, however brief, is what drew me to the surface each year for Carnival. Anonymous as the others in my costume and full-face mask, I drank in the sweet, fresh air as I made my way through the streets. They donned their elaborate costumes for merrymaking. Necessity forced me to hide in mine. An earlier rain had left a sheen on the square, reflecting the golden lights hung above the archways lining one side. Revelers traveled in pairs or groups, more sparsely than I'd expected, though it was only the first night. Excitement tinged the air and filled me with anticipation. Arms-length 3 women weaved toward me. I tensed at their laughter and murmurings, but slowed despite myself. In the gathering dusk, their beauty struck me. Underground, the nondescript hues dulled my senses, but the explosion of colors during the festival nearly overwhelmed me. I knew the city well, but like every year, it took me many minutes to orient myself, to school my muscles, to stop from running out of sheer giddiness. Freedom was such a heady thing. I took a moment to reel in my senses. I inhaled a deep breath and allowed myself a long look at the 3. The beast in me had already awakened and would soon demand satisfaction if I kept it waiting. It had been much too long. Catching my stare, the lady nearest me smirked below her gilded eye mask. With a bow, I touched the rim of my tri-corner hat. Her stroll became an exaggerated saunter, and her smile grew more predatory than teasing. She dipped in a low curtsy. The other 2 laughed and tugged her. Her heel slipped on the wet stone, and she yelped, soft and helpless as a kitten, a sound that aroused my male protectiveness, along with something much less benign. In 2 strides, I was beside her and helped her upright. Her hands splayed against my lapel, her breasts pressed into my chest. A sigh deepened into a moan as her legs slid between mine. Had she been alone, I'd have dragged her into the shadows and given her what she obviously wanted. I couldn't release my tight grip around her waist. "Oh, careful, Leandra," one of her 10 friends teased her. Yes, you should be more careful, Leandra. I might have referred to her accident or her flirting. She only tilted her head and laughed, a throaty, sexy laugh that made me want to roar. If she only knew what she played at, she wouldn't have teased so. "Are you going to the ball?" Her accent placed her as French. Good, a foreigner. No chance of running into her after Carnival, but most came here for the allure of an illicit encounter anyway. "I'm on my way to Teatro La Fenice, yes." Once I knew she wouldn't run away, I relaxed my hold. Her eyes flared. "Wonderful. You must walk with us." Beneath my mask, I smiled. I'd be honored. It would perhaps relieve me from the loneliness of standing on the sidelines while couples danced. I reached behind the spray of feathers adorning the hair coiled atop her head, and with an imperceptible jerk inside my sleeve, produced a silken flower. I presented it to her. She clapped. A magician. Of sorts. The sort they should avoid. The animal I might pull from my hat would not inspire applause. One of the 3, a blonde, scurried to my other side and attached herself to my arm. "You must entertain us some more." "Oh, I will." Her coquettish smile aroused a vibration within me, low and deep, akin to a growl if I'd allowed it freedom. There would be time for that later. I might have lured all 3 into the cover of darkness, but a flash of fire through the crowd caught my attention. The only time I disliked the hulking costumes was when they obstructed an interesting view, and from what I glimpsed as I steered the trio toward it, this view was more than interesting. In the center of the gathering, a statuesque woman twirled wands lit on both ends. Firelight played across her bare arms and legs, the gold and red costume crisscrossing her torso. Tall, with her long blonde hair swept back into a ponytail, she might have been an avenging angel. She had the grace of an athlete and the muscle tone. The woman on my right sneered. Not nearly as good as the other entertainers. Leandra squeezed my other arm. "Let's go." "Not yet." The performance mesmerized me. I had to watch until the end. I found more than the torches incendiary. Her movements practiced and deft, the fire dancer appeared completely at ease, as if the flames danced in accordance with her will. Maybe the very risk of it exhilarated her. She glowed brighter than the fire. She looked more alive than anyone I'd ever seen, more free. An ache filled my chest. How I envied her. "We're leaving," Leander said, a challenge in her tone. She stepped away, and the other two joined her. I stood my ground. "I'll catch up to you there." With a huff, she stomped off. "Don't bother." My focus followed the twirling wands. The woman tossed one high, then the other, easily catching both. She swirled them both around her body, surrounding herself in a cage of flame that streaked the dusk. A fire mage? Elda hadn't mentioned any newcomers, though this fire dancer could easily have been an enchantress. I was under her spell. I wanted to feel her skin on my skin, move with her in that exhilarating, intimate dance. I wanted her to burn me in the deepest way and free me if only for a brief time. She caught the wands and held them above her head, suddenly static. Such an abrupt halt, it jarred me. Her image seared into my brain, vivid enough, I hoped, until I later returned to my quarters to capture it in a sketch, though I'd never do justice to this goddess with a rendering in pencil. I clapped along with the others, who broke into pairs and wandered off. My feet remained rooted to the cobblestones. The woman doused the wands and set them on the damp stone where they hissed and smoked. She bent toward a case I hadn't noticed before and fastened a sarong around her waist. Sheer and diaphanous, it fluttered as she stood. "She's leaving. Say something." I lurched forward. "Wonderful." She turned wide eyes into sesame. "Thank you." For the first time, the color of her eyes struck me. Clear aqua with a fire of their own, like the sun glazing the top of the ocean. Fire and water. I was utterly bewitched. "I didn't mean to startle you." She tucked a sheer shawl of the same flimsy material around her, holding my gaze. The intensity of her stare might have touched a lit torch to my veins, igniting my blood. A man approached, a smile evident beneath his half-mask as he bent to lift the case. The silver and gold costume, complete with robe, did nothing to bulk up his slight frame. "Ready?" Weak of voice as well. He clearly was no match for her. "Yes," she said with no enthusiasm. To me, she said, "I hope you'll come again." An irresistible invitation. "When will you perform again? Where?" She shrugged. "Here and there. I follow the crowds." Then I would do likewise. I chanced adding, "I'm headed to the ball at Teatro La Fenice. Will I see you there?" Surprise tinged her teasing smile. "You never know." The man glared at me and shifted his grip around the handle of the case. "Come on, Melina." He clasped her hand and walked. Watching me, she allowed him to lead her away. "Melina," I said it without intending to. "Yes?" She turned as if to seize on any opportunity to stay. I couldn't let her leave without a memento. After closing the distance between us, I repeated my earlier trick, this time producing a fiery red flower, one I saved for a special occasion. Delight lit her face. "It's lovely." "It doesn't do you justice, Melina." I tucked it behind her ear, stepped back, and watched as she walked away. Maybe it would bring her back to me. My chest tightened, an uncomfortable reminder. Hope was a dangerous thing. After all, I only had 10 days.